There are people in your life right now who seem harmless, maybe even supportive, but in reality they are the ones secretly holding you back. They don't do it with open attacks or obvious sabotage. Instead, they smile, they nod, they play the role of friend or family. And while you're busy trusting them, they quietly clip your wings so you never fly higher than they want you to. The truth is, it's rarely strangers who block your path. Strangers don't have the access. It's the people you already let in, the ones who hear your dreams, know your fears, and understand your weaknesses. They don't need to shout to stop you. A subtle comment, a delayed hand of support, or a hidden envy disguised as love can be enough to keep you from moving forward. In this video, we'll expose the 5 types of people who secretly hold you back, each one more subtle than the last. And type number 4, that's the one most people never see coming until it's too late. So, if you're ready to protect your heart and your sanity, hit like, subscribe to Stoic Training, and drop a quick 1 in the comments so I know you're here. Let's begin. Type 1, the subtle critic. Among the 5 types of people who secretly hold you back, perhaps the easiest to overlook is the subtle critic. Unlike the blunt, loud critic who openly insults or mocks you, this one operates with finesse. Their words rarely sound hostile. In fact, on the surface, they may seem harmless, even helpful. But beneath their tone of concern or realism lies the quiet intention to plant seeds of doubt in your mind, to make you question your abilities, your dreams, and even your worth. It usually begins small. You share an idea you're excited about, starting a new project, pursuing a personal goal, or making a change in your life. Instead of encouragement, you hear phrases like, "That sounds nice, but don't you think it's a bit unrealistic?" Or, "Are you sure you're cut out for that? I just don't want you to get hurt." On the surface, it sounds like they're protecting you. But pay attention. What they're really doing is weakening your resolve before you've even taken the first step. The danger of the subtle critic is precisely that they don't appear dangerous. Unlike an obvious enemy, you don't put up your defenses against them. Because their words are wrapped in politeness or care, you let them in. And once those doubts seep into your thinking, you begin holding yourself back. Not because you've failed, but because you've been convinced you will fail. I once knew a young man with a gift for writing. He shared his work with a close friend, hoping for support. The friend's reply: "It's good, but you know how hard it is to succeed in writing. Most people never make it. You might want to focus on something more practical." That single comment didn't sound cruel. It sounded rational, but it was enough to silence his passion for years. And that's the quiet poison of subtle criticism. It doesn't attack your dream directly. It convinces you to abandon it yourself. Psychologically, the subtle critic often acts from insecurity. Your ambition reminds them of what they haven't done, and rather than confront their own fears, they'd rather keep you in the same cage they live in. By framing their doubt as realism or advice, they protect their ego while pulling you down to their level. They don't shout, but their whispers echo the loudest inside your head. The Stoics would call this a test of discernment. Epictetus reminded us that other people's opinions are beyond our control, but our reaction to them is entirely within our power. The subtle critic's words only become chains if we choose to wear them. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, urged himself to ask, "Is this opinion true? Does it serve me?" That's the question you must apply when facing someone who masks doubt as advice. Here's the hard truth: not all feedback is equal. Constructive criticism pushes you higher by pointing out where you can grow. Subtle criticism, on the other hand, pushes you down by making growth itself seem impossible. One builds resilience, the other erodes it. Learning to tell the difference could mean the difference between a life of courage and a life of hesitation. So, how do you deal with the subtle critic? First, recognize them. Pay attention to how you feel after conversations. Do you walk away clearer and stronger, or smaller and less certain? If it's the latter, you've identified their role in your life. Second, stop defending your dreams to them. You don't need to keep proving why your goals matter. Silence is often your best shield. Finally, surround yourself with people who lift your vision instead of cutting it down. As Seneca said, associate with those who will make a better man of you. The subtle critic thrives in the shadows, where doubt can hide behind concern. But once you shine the light of awareness on them, their influence fades. Because in the end, no one can hold you back more effectively than the doubts you accept as truth. And no one can free you more completely than your own decision to rise above them. Type 2. The fake supporter. If the subtle critic plants doubt through carefully chosen words, then the fake supporter holds you back through carefully chosen silence. They look like they're in your corner. They say the right things when the stakes are low. They nod, they smile, they clap for you when you're at the starting line. But when the real test comes, when you're in the middle of the storm or standing at a crossroad, they vanish. Their support exists only when it costs them nothing. The fake supporter often presents themselves as your biggest cheerleader. They might comment on your social media posts, praise you in casual conversations, or even tell others how proud they are of you. But when you truly need someone to stand beside you, when you're facing resistance, when doubt creeps in, when failure strikes, they are nowhere to be found. They don't lift you up when you stumble. They don't defend you when your name is questioned. They prefer the image of being supportive over the sacrifice of actually being supportive. I once knew a woman who started a small business. In the early days, her friends constantly told her, "We're so excited for you. You're going to do amazing things." But when she asked them to share her work, to show up at her launch, or even to recommend her to others, their excuses piled up. "Oh, I meant to, but I've been busy." Their words were free, their presence was absent, and that absence spoke louder than their praise ever could. Psychologically, fake supporters operate from comfort. They enjoy the glow of being associated with your success, but they don't want the discomfort of being tied to your struggle. To support you when you're shining costs them nothing. To support you when you're doubted, criticized, or failing, that costs loyalty, energy, even reputation. And that's where they draw the line. The danger of the fake supporter is subtle. Because they seem to be with you, you keep them close. You share your victories with them, you share your failures with them, and you assume they're a safe space. But over time, you notice the pattern. Their presence is conditional. They're loud when you're up, silent when you're down. And that silence is betrayal in disguise. The Stoics had a sharp eye for this. Seneca wrote that true friendship is proven in adversity. Anyone can celebrate with you on the mountain. The real measure of loyalty is who walks beside you in the valley. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that words mean little if not matched with action. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Fake supporters fail this test every time. They argue with their words, but they don't show with their lives. So, how do you protect yourself? First, stop mistaking enthusiasm for loyalty. Enthusiasm is cheap, loyalty is costly. Watch who stays when the applause dies down. Second, stop pouring your energy into relationships that only mirror your highs. Save your trust for those who are willing to hold some of your lows. And third, embrace the Stoic lesson of self-reliance. Never anchor your confidence in external praise. Build it within yourself, so that the silence of the fake supporter cannot rob you of momentum. The painful truth is that fake supporters are not truly with you. They are with the image of you that flatters them. They are with the version of you that makes them look good. But they are not with the real, vulnerable, struggling you. And until you recognize that, you will keep mistaking noise for substance. So when you find yourself surrounded by claps but short of real hands to hold, remember, applause fades quickly, but true support endures. And the people who secretly hold you back are often not the ones who criticize loudly, but the ones who disappear quietly when you need them most. Type 3. The envious pretender. If the subtle critic weakens you with disguised doubt, and the fake supporter weakens you with conditional loyalty, then the envious pretender weakens you with a poisoned smile. They are the type of person who appears happy for you, but every word of congratulations hides a bitter taste. Their applause is hollow, their laughter strained, and their so-called encouragement feels more like a performance than sincerity. Outwardly, they play the role of a friend, but inwardly, they are unsettled by your growth. Envy doesn't always show itself in obvious ways. Rarely will someone admit, "I wish you hadn't succeeded." Instead, it leaks out in the subtlest forms. Forced compliments, backhanded remarks, or constant comparisons. You tell them about a new opportunity and they reply, "That's great, but you know so-and-so already did that, right?" You share a personal victory and they mutter, "Well, don't let it get to your head." Each word is carefully wrapped in the clothing of casualness, but inside is a message. Don't rise too far above me. I once knew a man who earned a major promotion at work. His closest friend congratulated him with a wide smile, but later that week the same friend joked at a party, "Well, you know, he only got it because the boss likes him." The room laughed, but he felt the sting. That's envy at work. It can't celebrate your light without trying to dim it. And the danger of the envious pretender is that, unlike an enemy, they remain in your circle. They still sit at your table, still share your space, and all the while their envy gnaws at the trust you place in them. Psychologically, envy is born when someone defines their worth through comparison. Your success is not just your success, it becomes their failure. Instead of being inspired, they feel exposed. Your progress reminds them of their stagnation, and rather than confront that truth, they attempt to pull you back down. They want you close enough to keep them company, but never far enough to remind them of what they lack. The Stoics saw envy as one of the most corrosive forces to the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote that another's good fortune does not rob you of your own, and yet many live as if it does. Seneca went further, warning that the envious harm themselves before they harm others, because their resentment burns them from within. But here's the catch. If you allow the envious pretender too much access to your life, their poison can spread. Their small remarks can plant doubts, their constant comparisons can erode your confidence, and before long, you may begin dimming your own light just to keep their envy at bay. So how do you protect yourself? First, learn to read between the lines. Not every smile is genuine. Not every compliment is clean. Watch for the tension in their tone, the little remarks that always undercut your achievement. Second, stop seeking validation from them. You do not need their full-hearted approval to move forward. In fact, waiting for it will only keep you chained. Third, live out the Stoic principle of indifference. Treat their envy as what it is, an illness of their spirit, not a reflection of your worth. Here's the truth. The people who envy you secretly hold you back, not because they can stop your progress directly, but because they tempt you to shrink yourself for their comfort. They want you to dim your fire, so their shadows don't look so long. But you owe it to yourself, and to the life you're meant to live, to keep shining. Because in the end, the envious pretender is not truly against you. They are against the part of you that refuses to stay small. And that is the very part of you you must protect at all costs. Type 4. The silent saboteur. Among all the types of people who secretly hold you back, none are more dangerous than the silent saboteur. Why? Because they don't oppose you openly, and they don't reveal their hand through envy or conditional loyalty. Instead, they operate quietly, in the shadows where you least expect betrayal. While the critic speaks and the pretender smiles, the saboteur does neither. They simply remove, delay, or distort just enough to make sure your progress stumbles without ever being caught in the act. This kind of person is often close to you. They could be a co-worker who conveniently forgets to forward an important email. They might be a friend who assures you they'll help, but never follows through when the moment comes. They could even be a family member who promises to support you but plants subtle doubts in the ears of others when you're not around. What makes them so dangerous is that they don't look like enemies. They wear the same mask as allies, which keeps your guard down. And by the time you realize what they've been doing, the damage is already done. I once knew someone who worked tirelessly on a project, trusting a colleague to handle one small but critical task. That colleague smiled, nodded, and promised it would be done. Yet when the deadline came, the task had been neglected and the project collapsed. Later, it became clear this was no accident. The colleague feared being outshined, so he quietly ensured failure. He never admitted wrongdoing. He didn't have to. The silence of what wasn't done spoke for itself. Psychologically, the silent saboteur is driven by fear and insecurity. They don't have the courage to confront you directly or to compete fairly. Instead, they undermine you subtly, hiding behind excuses like, "I forgot," or "I didn't realize it mattered so much." This is what makes them so insidious. Their actions are deniable. You can never point to a clear betrayal. You're left second-guessing yourself, wondering if you're being paranoid. And while you doubt your instincts, they quietly win. The Stoics would call this the ultimate test of vigilance. Epictetus taught that while we cannot control the dishonesty of others, we must always guard the integrity of our own actions. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that betrayal, no matter how cleverly disguised, harms the betrayer more than the betrayed because it corrodes the soul. Yet the Stoics also warned not to be naive. To live wisely is not to assume everyone is virtuous, but to recognize that human weakness often hides behind masks. So how do you deal with the silent saboteur? First, trust actions more than promises. Words are easy, follow-through is rare. Pay attention not to what people say they will do, but to what they actually deliver. Second, diversify your trust. Don't hand all responsibility for your future into one person's hands, no matter how close they seem. Third, embrace the Stoic principle of self-reliance. Build your foundation so strong that the sabotage of others can delay you, but never destroy you. Here's the harsh truth. The silent saboteur will rarely reveal themselves. They want you to fail quietly, to wonder endlessly why things never worked out. But once you recognize their pattern, the forgotten tasks, the missed calls, the faint betrayals disguised as mistakes, you'll see them clearly. And when you do, you'll understand why they are the most dangerous of all. Because an open enemy can be confronted. A silent saboteur lives in the blind spots of your trust. And that is why, among all the types who secretly hold you back, this one deserves the most vigilance. For it's not the knife you see that wounds the deepest. It's the one slipped between your ribs while you're still smiling at the hand that holds it. Type 5. The comfort pusher. Not every person who secretly holds you back does so with envy, sabotage, or criticism. Some hold you back with something that feels good in the moment but destroys you slowly over time. Comfort. This is the role of the comfort pusher. Unlike the critic who plants doubts or the saboteur who hides betrayal, the comfort pusher comes dressed in warmth, kindness, and care. They don't attack your dreams. They simply whisper, "Why push so hard? Relax, you've already done enough." And that is exactly why they're so dangerous. The comfort pusher rarely seems like an enemy. In fact, they may be among the people who love you most. A parent who tells you, "Don't overwork yourself, just play it safe." A friend who insists, "Why risk it? Let's just stay where things are familiar." A colleague who says, "You don't need to aim higher, you're already doing fine." Their words sound protective, even loving. But look deeper and you'll see the truth. What they're really protecting is not you. It's the version of you that doesn't change, doesn't grow, doesn't outgrow them. I once spoke to a man who had the chance to relocate for a higher-paying, more fulfilling job. His closest friend told him, "Sure, the offer sounds good, but why stress yourself? You're already comfortable here. Think about how much easier life is now." He listened. He stayed. Years later, he admitted the decision was one of his greatest regrets. What looked like support was actually sabotage through comfort. Psychologically, the comfort pusher thrives on fear of change. They know growth requires discomfort, risk, even failure. And because they're afraid of those things themselves, they encourage you to avoid them too. The more you stay comfortable, the more predictable you become. The more predictable you become, the less likely you are to threaten their worldview or surpass the limits they've accepted for themselves. The Stoics would see this clearly. Seneca warned that comfort and luxury soften the soul, making it weak and dependent. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the path of virtue is rarely the path of ease. To choose comfort over growth is to exchange long-term strength for short-term relief. And though the comfort pusher doesn't intend to destroy you, their influence does exactly that. It lulls you into mediocrity, where your potential slowly suffocates. So how do you deal with the comfort pusher? First, learn to distinguish between genuine care and fear disguised as advice. If their words consistently push you towards safety at the expense of growth, recognize the pattern. Second, don't outsource your resilience. Your willingness to endure discomfort is the strongest shield against stagnation. Third, remember the Stoic truth. What is easy now often leads to hardship later, while what is hard now often leads to strength later. Here's the painful reality. The comfort pusher may not be malicious. They may truly think they're helping, but their influence can be as damaging as envy or sabotage because it convinces you to settle. And settling is the quietest way to waste a life. If you look back and see missed opportunities, unfinished goals, or dreams you buried in the name of taking it easy, chances are you've listened to a comfort pusher, and the only antidote is awareness. Recognize that their advice, while soothing, is not aligned with the life you were meant to live. Because in the end, the people who secretly hold you back don't always push you down. Sometimes they hold you in place. And staying still when you were meant to grow is the slowest form of destruction. So now you've seen the 5 types of people who secretly hold you back. They don't always reveal themselves with loud words or open attacks. Sometimes they come as critics, as supporters, as friends, even as family, but their effect is the same. They keep you small, they keep you hesitant, they keep you from becoming who you were meant to be. The Stoics reminded us that the company we keep is as important as the thoughts we choose. Marcus Aurelius said your soul takes the color of those around you. If you walk with those who live in fear, envy, or comfort, that will stain your spirit. But if you choose carefully, surrounding yourself with those who value truth, courage, and growth, your life cannot help but rise. So I'll leave you with this question. Who around you is truly lifting you, and who is quietly holding you back? If this video spoke to you, hit like, subscribe, and comment "I choose growth" below. See you in the next video.